Female lead. Revenge must be avenged+Blade repair maniac+Be decisive in handling things. Sangyan is an ordinary social animal who died suddenly at home due to staying up late. When he opened his eyes again, he traveled to another world. Also bound to a system. Hello Master, welcome to the Collapse 003 world line. Main task, 1. Activate your abilities and kill 100 low-level zombies within a week. Sangyan. Let go of the livestock, thank you. The system says that in order to give her a sense of belonging or immersion, she can view this place as a gaming world. However, she looked at the ordinary people who were constantly suffering. They had no superpowers, no self-protection ability. Watching day after day, year after year, the supernatural beings eliminate zombies. In a prolonged battle, fatigue and collapse are inevitable. Perhaps we can try to end all of this, she thought. When they formed their own team and successfully approached the source of pollution, heretics appeared. This is a devastating battle, with no hope left. A pocket watch that can reverse time found in a battle has played a crucial role here. The reality of the world is a game, but in Sangyan's view, it is not a game, but a hope for life. P.S. Currently, the male lead's reserve is Gu Ziyu, but of course, it still depends on his subsequent performance. P.S. If Sangyan really wants to fall in love, I think according to her personality, it should be a straight ball romance. Thank you to every reader for their support and your liking. Every word of encouragement and urging from you is my motivation. Love you all. Heart to heart. Keywords of the novel. To be the liver emperor in a zombie game without a pop-up window, to be the liver emperor in a zombie game. Download the complete text, and to be the liver emperor in a zombie game. Read the latest chapters. Chapter 1. Welcome to Collapse 003. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Welcome to Collapse 003. Sang Yensheng lay helpless on the computer desk, lazily yawning. She pondered with a wooden face. Do I have to earn this money? Which company wakes you up late at night to rush the project? Why don't you just look for her instead of others? She cursed in her heart, but she had to get up and continue working overtime. After all, the plan has already reached the last point, and not finishing it always feels uncomfortable in my heart. Her damn obsessive-compulsive disorder. The clock at the head of the bed slowly pointed until 3 a.m. Sangyan approached the computer and carefully saved the finished file, clicking the save button time and time again. After clicking more than 10 times in a row and confirming that it was really saved, Sangyan was overjoyed. Looking at the time, she stood up and wanted to get some water to drink, but didn't want to. In the moment she stood up, her eyes turned black. She instinctively closed her eyes, with a sharp buzzing sound in her ear, but heard some rustling sounds. Before realizing what was going on, the intense pain in the heart followed closely. I wish I could kill her in pain. From time to time, a cold touch could be felt on the face, as it slowly slid down the skin towards a lower area. The voice grew louder and louder, and Sangyan caught a few words in the mist. Sangyan. Sangyan. Wake up quickly. It seemed like someone was calling out to her from a very distant place. Sangyan closed her eyes tightly, but suddenly everything around her fell silent. Consciousness gradually dissipated, as if a century had passed. She heard, "Wake up quickly, sister. The zombie is coming soon." Zombies. Corpses. She had a vague impression in her brain, but she couldn't remember what it was. On the edge of being completely engulfed by darkness, she heard a loud shout that was incredibly clear, "Sangyan." The darkness quickly faded like a tide, and Sangyan suddenly opened his eyes to see a delicate and lovely girl with tears on her face, looking at her with red eyes. The other party breathed a sigh of relief when they saw her wake up, blinked, tears hanging from her eyelashes dripping onto Sangyan's cheek. She couldn't help but raise her hand and touch it. Looking at the crystal clear on her fingertips, she slowly realized that it was the little girl's tears. Before she could finish speaking, the little girl closed her eyes and threw herself into her arms, hugging her tightly. She said in a hoarse voice, "You really scared me. I've been unconscious for 2 months and haven't woken up. I thought my sister died like this." Sangyan hesitated for a moment, then raised his hand and lightly patted her back, coaxing her softly, "It's okay, how could I die easily? What happened to me before?" The little girl was in her arms, her voice muffled. 2 months ago, a zombie wave broke out in this area. You were too affected and fainted. The zombie wave. Do you know the reason? She asked without leaving a trace. It's not that group of reckless men from Yongyang base. They can do anything for the sake of crystal stones and blow up the zombies' lair. They don't have the ability to solve the subsequent troubles yet. Seeing that they can't fight, they run away in despair. She took a deep breath to calm her emotions and continued, they walked straight away, but the zombies were frightened and ran out. After 2 months of rampant behavior, there were already not many living people in this area. I really tried my best to save them, but there were too many zombies. I've exhausted my power source countless times, and still, there's nothing I can do. Sangyan's mind was in chaos now. She looked down at the person in her arms, but suddenly a transparent character panel full of technological style appeared in front of her. She paused for a moment, as if this could only be seen by herself. Control your emotions and carefully check the little girl's information from top to bottom. Name: Ran Yuan. Gender: female. Age: 15 years old. Ability attribute: fire, self-attack power. 998, skill: none. Organization: none. Relatives: Sangyan. Relationship: sister. Identity: the child adopted by Sangyan's parents. He was born with exceptional talents and awakened his abilities at the age of 4. Experience: after the successive deaths of Sang Anding and Ran Shinro, Ran Yuan became anxious about gains and losses, fearing that Sangyan, the only sister, would also quietly die. After reading the message, feeling the little girl's low mood, she comforted and said, "It's okay, our relationship is great. Just do your best, you're not a god. You've been working hard for the past 2 months. Is this a dream? And how did that panel appear just now? Is it in her consciousness?" Ran Yuan stood up from her arms, wiped away her tears, and smiled, saying, "It's not hard, it's not hard. Fortunately, my sister has already woken up, otherwise I don't know what to do." After finishing speaking, she hurriedly packed up her things and said, "The top priority is to leave here quickly. The terminal shows that the zombie tide is moving this way, and we are very dangerous." Sangyan picked up her already packed luggage, and only then did she realize that she was in a rudimentary small bedroom. "But it's cleaned up very well, and from the layout, it seems like I haven't lived here for long, at most for a week. It seems that this little girl has been taking her unconscious and shifting positions around since then." She remembers clearly that she had just finished writing the plan a moment ago, but as soon as she opened her eyes, she changed the world and always felt unreal. But she couldn't distinguish which world was reality. Forget it. Sangyan looked at the busy little girl in the room and sighed. Just now, Ran Yuan said that she was unconscious due to the influence of the zombie tide, but Yuan was the one who came into close contact with the zombie tide, but nothing happened, and there were also abilities on the panel. She seems to be an ordinary person who is dragging her feet. She carried her luggage and took the remaining things from the little girl's hand. Ran Yuan hurriedly said, "No way. Very heavy, sister. You just woke up and your body's various functions have not recovered yet. Give it to me. Don't look at my small stature, I have a lot of strength." She proudly patted her small body. Sangyan touched her head and said softly, "It's okay, I didn't feel any discomfort in my body. Besides, this weight is nothing. Let's go." Ran Yuanyuan saw that she was so persistent, so she had to give up. Raise your hand and click on the terminal between your wrists to pop up a map page that displays the area they are in from all angles, with green dots representing humans and red dots representing zombies. The dense red dots on the map are getting closer and closer to the green dots, and they can reach their location in at most an hour. They follow the target location locked on the map. On the way, Sangyan watched and surveyed the surrounding buildings, which were different from the apocalypse she had imagined. The technology in this world is very advanced, and floating cars can be seen everywhere on the roadside, but most of them are scrapped. The wreckage of robots is still scattered everywhere, and in the center of the community where they are staying, there is a large screen floating, but it can still operate. Above is playing recruitment information about the National Ability Team. Zombies nowadays are becoming increasingly powerful, and they have begun to evolve into reproductive systems. For the hope of all humanity, for our future. The Ministry of National Security's psychic team is recruiting all attribute psychic experts from around the world. Led by General Gu Ziyu, the team leader. Successful members who join the team can receive X10 advanced nutrient solution per day, and... What are you waiting for? Come and sign up now. Contact address. Level 1 Survival Station in District A of Chaoyang City, contact information. Terminal 15 star. After the recruitment information was played, a deep and three-dimensional facial feature appeared immediately. His facial lines were extremely beautiful, and his emerald green eyes gently looked at the camera. Next to the image of this top-notch handsome guy is his name. Gu Ziyu. Sangyan glanced at his eyes and lowered his gaze to follow Ran Yuanyuan on his way to the destination. Before it got dark, Sangyan finally arrived at her destination. She looked at Ran Yuanyuan, who was clearly tired, and said in a warm voice, "Yuanyuan, please rest quickly. I'll watch the night and call you promptly if there is any news." The little girl nodded, wiped her face randomly, kicked off her shoes, and fell asleep. Sangyan looked at her with a funny expression, found a chair in the room, sat down and closed his eyes, while sorting out the information he had received today. Drip. Detects the host's mental state is relaxed and the system has been automatically activated. A cold mechanical sound suddenly rang out in Sangyan's mind, and she was startled by it. What is it? Just as she was thinking about it, the voice continued to say in her consciousness, "Hello Master. I am a rescue system sent by the highest level world line 001 that has collapsed. Due to your previous mental strain, I was unable to successfully transmit important information to you. Now I am starting to analyze the various values of the host's body, as follows. Name. Sangyan, gender. Female, age. 19 years old, power attribute. No power detected, no power detected. Self-attack power. 100 skill. None, equipment. None, crystal. Advanced zombie purple crystal organization. None, relatives. Ran Yuanyuan, relationship. Sister identity. The eldest daughter of the Sang family. Chi luck value. 50, lucky value. 10 subsequent data is being continuously updated for the growth of the host, master. Welcome to the Collapse 003 world line. I have been waiting for you for a long time, and now I am starting to transmit world data. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Activating abilities. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 3. Trigger branch tasks. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Trigger branch tasks. Ran Yuanyuan brought Sangyan to a certain location on the terminal map, which seemed to be the warehouse of a large supermarket. Before Sangyan could get close, he could feel the active scent of zombie decay inside. However, it is very simple, and the number of zombies should not be large. They walked in and saw a green zombie lying on the ground, licking the dried blood on the ground. At this point, the transparent panel popped out again. Low-level zombies. HP, 100 attack. 50 attack method. Bite, scratch, if the victim is not cleaned of the virus in a timely manner, there is a 99% chance of assimilation. Weakness. Head crystal. Unknown suddenly, it stopped moving, as if smelling some top-notch delicacy, and splashed its saliva crazily towards them. Sangyan stopped Ran Yuanyuan, who was about to take action. The little girl looked at her in confusion, her eyes full of question marks. At the moment when the zombie erupted, Sangyan knew without a teacher how to use the ability. On her way here before, she asked Ran Yuanyuan about the usage of her abilities, but the little girl shook her head and said apologetically, "Well, I don't know, the usage of each ability is different." Sangyan raised his hand and controlled the surrounding metal to fiercely hit the rushing zombie, with a thick steel bar piercing through its head, nailing it to the ground without moving. In my mind, the system broadcasted. Progress in killing low-level zombies, 1/100, go. Keep up. Ran Yuanyuan. Sangyan was extremely satisfied and patted the stunned Ran Yuanyuan's head next to him. With a smile, he said, "Go ahead and take a look." The zombie being nailed looked miserable, and the closer it got, the stronger the smell of decay. Stopping 3 meters away from it, Sangyan pondered for a moment and activated the lightning attribute in the energy source to attach to the steel bar. The electric current instantly spread along the steel bars throughout the decaying body of the zombie, and a sizzling sound accompanied by thick smoke filled the surroundings. Seeing the carrion flying everywhere on the zombie's body, Sangyan quickly pulled Ran Yuanyuan aside. Hiss. "This thing is quite useful," she sighed as she looked at the zombie corpse that was electrocuted and twitching all over, with its flesh flying wildly. Ugh. Ran Yuanyuan couldn't help but retch, "Sister, this smell smells even worse than a corpse that has been dead for a month." Ugh. Sangyan suppressed her smile, but she didn't feel anything. She looked at the little girl holding her nose and tearful eyes and said happily, "This is called developing new skills. Next time, let's stand far away and attack them remotely. We'll wait until the smell clears before moving forward." Ran Yuanyuan replied in a muffled voice. Walking over, the poor zombie had turned into ashes, and a white and energy-turbid crystal lay quietly on the ground. There is also an iron sword next to it. Low-level zombies. Health. 0 attack. 0 attack method. Bite, scratch, if the victim is not cleaned of the virus in a timely manner, there is a 99% chance of assimilation. Weakness. Head crystal. Low-grade white crystal confirmed death, dropped equipment. Worn iron sword. Self-attack +10, used 20 times, destroyed immediately if exceeded. Sangyan scanned the eye panel and dropped the equipment. Wait. Equipment. Why does a zombie drop equipment? At this moment, Sangyan vaguely felt something was wrong. But Ran Yuanyuan, who walked over, was only surprised to see the iron sword on the ground and said, "It seems that the zombie swarm has evolved again." Upon hearing the little girl's calm expression, Sangyan turned her head and asked, "What do you say?" "The items dropped during each zombie evolution are different. The last upgrade was a skill drop. This time, it seems like equipment was dropped, indicating that their zombie swarm has undergone large-scale evolution. Another zombie king has been born." Sangyan asked, "Will the birth of the zombie king trigger the evolution of the zombie population?" "Yes, sister. But similarly, humans also evolve. This seems to be a constraint. Zombies can't do anything to us, we can't do anything to them either. Otherwise, how could we not have killed zombies with such advanced technology? In the face of extraordinary energy, technology has no place to be used," Ran Yuanyuan muttered. Sangyan frowned, still feeling something was wrong. But they still had to search for supplies before dark. She temporarily suppressed this doubt, picked up the iron sword and crystal, and went to the next destination. Along the way, I searched for supplies and also dealt with several lonely zombies. While passing by a large shopping center, they found a dying ordinary person in the storage room on the first floor. After giving each of the 4 people a nutrient, Sangyan watched as they wolfed it down and said, "We will take you to the survival station later. It's very safe there. It's just a long way to go." After listening, the 4 of them looked at each other. One of the middle-aged women weakly said, "Okay, you can find us and give us the nutrients. We are already grateful, and we need to trouble you to send us to the survival station. Really, thank you very much." She choked up, saying that ordinary people without abilities find it difficult to survive in this world and must rely on the protection of those with abilities to survive. The base where the 4 of them used to stay, one of the survival rules was to draw 10 ordinary people every month to accompany the psychics to gather supplies outside. And their only function is to attract zombies to the set traps and hunt them all down. Under the relentless pursuit of zombies, there were only 4 of them left out of 10. But to their surprise, the group of psychics gathered all the supplies and threw them away here. Sangyan pursed her lips tightly, witnessing for the first time the cruelty and indifference of this world. After a moment of silence, Ran Yuanyuan said, "Auntie, the survival station is very safe and was established with state funding. The professional qualities of the supernatural beings inside are very high. This time, you can live there with peace of mind." Okay, we've also posted information about survival station on the terminal before. But we're too far away from survival station, there's no way we can survive to survival station. Sigh. What was the name of the base you stayed at before? Sangyan whispered. The middle-aged woman replied quickly, Tonghui. Call it Tonghui Base. This name she will never forget in her lifetime. Sangyan nodded and said, "Let's go, it's getting dark." They boarded a large floating vehicle with 8 people, and 6 of them, along with the materials collected today, just filled the entire vehicle. After settling down, it was completely dark. Sangyan hasn't figured out this type of car yet, fortunately Ran Yuanyuan can drive it. The other 4 people's tense nerves suddenly relaxed and fell asleep in their seats. She sat in the passenger seat fiddling with the terminal between her wrists. Because she had been unconscious for 2 months and it was inconvenient to wear the terminal on her hand, Ran Yuanyuan took it off for her. I only remembered about it this afternoon. All communication in this world is achieved through this small thing called a terminal, which can also activate the optical brain to obtain various data and information. Sangyan squinted his eyes. Why does this sound so like a system? Master, in the world line 001 of the highest level of collapse, the terminal and optical brain are integrated and upgraded to a system. She suddenly realized and opened her terminal, and the long dormant light brain in her brain automatically activated. Sangyan's optical brain has not been activated yet. He has registered his information on the terminal and the optical brain automatically connects to the terminal to update his identity information. She looked at the dazzling information on the homepage of the optical brain, and the most prominent information was that the country strongly recommended ordinary people to enter the survival station, with clear descriptions of welfare, protection, and living conditions. For example, each person can receive 1 low-level nutrient per day, 1 intermediate nutrient per month, and 2 low-level therapeutic medications. You can also exchange your own supplies, and each survival station will have dozens of powerful superpowers stationed, so there is no need to be afraid of zombies invading. The living conditions are also very good. The psychics are responsible for finding materials to maintain basic living conditions, while ordinary people grow vegetables and cook inside the station, as well as build houses and so on. There are many comments below about how good one's life is, and the hottest comment is, "I escaped from faxing base." If you can't complete the task assigned to you today inside, you will be ruthlessly dragged to the square of the base, stripped of your clothes and whipped. They said this was a warning, and next time you will be driven out of the base to feed the zombies. Fortunately, you narrowly escaped. You also encountered the patrol team of the survival station. Thank you to the country for saving my life. Many people replied, all expressing their emotions. Sangyan frowned and said, the treatment at the base is so poor, why are there so many people going? Ran Yuan yawned and said, the most common thing is that the area where he is located is too far from the survival station, so he can only choose the nearest base. After a pause, she continued. And I heard that when zombies first broke out, many wealthy and powerful leaders built bases in areas with abundant resources. The survival station was actually completely built 30 years ago. Fortunately, there were seniors, otherwise the world would have been in chaos. I also wanted to take my sister directly to the survival station before, but there is only one survival station in a city, and our area is very remote. Moreover, ordinary people have no resistance to the zombie wave caused by the Yongyang base, and I can't turn a blind eye to them. With a smile on his face, Sangyan said, Yuan did a great job, this is a heroic act. After finishing, he lowered his head and didn't know what he was thinking. The comment just now said she encountered a patrol team, but she hasn't seen these figures for the past 2 days. She speculated that the survival station was in a mutually restrictive relationship with the base, and that the jurisdiction of the survival station should be so large in the city where it is located. As for very remote areas, I believe they also have intentions but are powerless. Looking at the scenery speeding by outside the car window, she had an idea in her mind at high speed. It took 3 days and 2 nights of driving to reach the survival station. As soon as he drove into the city, Sangyan heard the system broadcast. Trigger side quest. Join the survival station in this city of light and gain the trust of the hunting team captain. Task reward. 50 points, end of this chapter. Chapter 4. Join survival station. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Join survival station. Entering the city requires passing the inspection. They handed the identity cards and travel records on the terminal to the security personnel for viewing. I was surprised to see that they had come from a long distance and there were no injuries on their bodies. Your mental state and physical condition are both very healthy. May I ask if there is any superpower among you? The security guard asked with his eyes lit up. The sisters looked at each other, and Sangyan, thinking about the task, took the initiative to come forward. My sister and I are powers, and whether they are strong or not. We don't know, but it's easy to kill dozens of low-level zombies. The 4 people behind nodded. These days, the sisters caught and killed a zombie. Sometimes when I see a group of zombies, the excitement is like not eating meat for 800 years. The young man became even more excited upon hearing this. Can you wait a moment? I'll contact our superiors soon. Okay, don't worry. Sangyan was very satisfied in her heart. It seemed that her premonition was right. The survival station may not lack psychics, but it is extremely lacking in psychic powerhouses. The leader of the young man acted quickly and rushed over in a floating car within 20 minutes of notification. And he also carried 3 people with serious faces and uniforms. Judging from their imposing demeanor, Sangyan guessed that they should be interviewers or something like that. They stood up one after another, and the security guard walked forward with a military salute. The security team leader patted his shoulder and said with a smile, Xiao Pan, I have brought Lao Ji and his team over. Could you please open the testing room? We need it later. Good Su Shirshi reached out to Sangyan, who looked like the leader among them, and said, Hello madam, I am the chief security officer of Guangming City's level 2 survival station. Su Shirshi. Hello, I'm Sangyan, and this is my sister Ran Yuan. These 4 are ordinary people we are rescuing. Sangyan shook back solemnly. She introduced them one by one, and they all replied. Okay, Pan Ju mentioned earlier that you are psychics, and these 3 are psychic interviewers. Later, we need to enter the testing room to test your psychic data. The method is simple, just release the psychic into the testing ball. The sisters nodded that they knew. Han Ju returned soon, and Su Shishi said to him, "Go notify 17 and send the ordinary people to the station." Then he said to them, "Everyone, once you enter the station, someone will tell you what to do. Don't worry about food, clothing, and safety issues, but don't easily leave the station. There are still many unknown areas in this city that we haven't developed yet. Safety hazards are unknown." Upon hearing him say so, Sun Man and the others completely relaxed with relief. "Thank you, we will strictly abide by the rules and will never cause any trouble for you," said solemnly. They thanked Sangyan and Ran Yuanyuan one after another. "Thank you two little girls for bringing us all the way. If you hadn't found us in the storage room and rescued us, we might have already." The sisters comforted them and hugged them. "It doesn't matter. It's our power to protect you. Yeah, since we have this ability, we definitely need to protect you." Su Shishi and the three interviewers met in secret and nodded lightly. After waiting for the person dispatched from the station to drive them away, Su Shishi led Sangyan and the others into the testing room. The testing room is located next to the security checkpoint, not far away. The room is large, but there is only a pure white ball standing alone in the middle. Sangyan stepped forward to test, and she injected her hands with abilities according to the method mentioned by Su Shishi just now. She was the first to inject lightning attribute, and the entire pure white sphere suddenly became pitch black, surrounded by lightning outside the sphere. The three interviewers opened their terminals one after another to prepare for recording numerical values and videos. Ability attribute. Thunder. Spherical staining degree. Whole body. Abnormality purity. Extremely high. The terminal automatically detects abnormal data. Detection successful. Power strength. SS+. The data has been entered into the National Power Database. The power strength ranking has been refreshed. Name. Sangyan, gender. Female, age. 19 years old. Current ranking of power intensity. 20 Sangyan. The three interviewers stared blankly at the more excited terminals flashing their screens, updating their data. They looked up in confusion, staring blankly at Sangyan. It was obvious that Sangyan was even more confused than them. She just lightly injected a bit of a power. Moreover, her system panel has also updated data. Name. Sangyan, gender. Female, age. 19 years old, ability attribute, dual. SS plus thunder attribute / S plus metal attribute, self-attack power. 3005 skill. None, equipment. Worn. Out iron sword, remaining times. 15, crystal. High. Level zombie purple crystal, fusion progress. 1%, low. Level zombie white crystal * 1 organization. None, relatives. Ran Yuanyuan, relationship. Sister identity. The eldest daughter of the Sang family. Chi luck value. 50, lucky value. 10 physical fitness value. 100, self-defense strength. 10 subsequent data is being continuously updated for the growth of the host Sangyan. She knows her abilities are very strong, but she didn't expect them to be so strong. This is just hanging up. This is definitely hanging. Su Shishi was overjoyed. He must find a way to keep them. Generally, powerful psychics who do not want to be disciplined by the organization will choose to fight alone, so whether it is a survival station or a base, they will find ways to attract these psychics. Previously, Yongyang base also tried to win over Ran Yuanyuan, but she refused to join the base. Sangyan tentatively took her hand off the ball. She also has a special ability attribute, although she knows its strength without testing. But she was bound to go higher in the future, so she thought for a moment and decided to continue testing. Anyway, one day they both have to know. So the hand that had not yet been retracted was put up again. Su Shishi thought she didn't know the test was over and reminded, Miss Sang, the test is over. Your data is very, very excellent. Sangyan chuckled lightly and said, I still have an unpredictable ability. I don't know how strong it is. 3 interviewers. Su Shishi. What? Ran Yuan. Very proud JPG Sangyan. What are you doing? Why are your expressions so eerie? Su Shishi took a deep breath and said, let's test it first. Sangyan nodded and began injecting powers. The sphere, which had already returned to pure white, became incredibly golden in the next moment. Ability attribute. Gold. Spherical staining degree. Whole body. Abnormality purity. Ultra.high. The terminal automatically detects abnormal data. Detection successful. Power intensity. S+. The data has been entered into the National Power Database. The power strength ranking has been refreshed. Name. Sangyan, gender. Female, age. 19 years old. Current ranking of power intensity. 25. The data has detected that the tester has dual attribute abilities. The data has been merged and entered into the National Ability Database. The power strength ranking has been refreshed. Name. Sangyan, gender. Female, age. 19 years old. Current ranking of power intensity. 10. I'll be obedient. What kind of genius is this? Ran Yuan was extremely happy. She knew that her sister was very, very powerful both before and now. Su Shishi desperately suppressed his ecstasy and nodded to signal Ran Yuan to come forward and test after Sangyan's test was over. The little girl had no pressure at all and happily raised her hand to inject superpowers into the ball. Damn it. I don't know who screamed, but everyone didn't pay attention and just stared at the continuously turning red ball covered by Ran Yuan's slender fingers. The red gradually deepened and turned black. Ability attribute. Fire. Spherical staining degree. Whole body. Abnormality purity. Ultra.high. The terminal automatically detects abnormal data. Detection successful. Power intensity. S+. The data has been entered into the National Power Database. The power strength ranking has been refreshed. Name. Ran Yuan, gender. Female, age. 15 years old. Current ranking of power intensity. 21. Ran Yuan turned around and happily threw himself into Sangyan's arms, like a child who had eaten candy. Sister, S+. It's S+. Sangyan smiled and touched her head. Yuan is great. Su Shishi. 3 interviewers. Damn it, if it weren't for the fact that there are only over 20 people with S-level abilities nationwide, and only over 200 people with a level or above and 3A level or below B and C, needless to say, add up to over 30,000. It can be imagined how difficult it is to encounter abilities above level A, let alone S. Moreover, there are no more than 10 dual attribute abilities but today. They saw the dual S and dual attribute superpowers at first sight. Damn it, there's also an S.grade 15.year.old girl. They can boast about this cow for a lifetime. At that moment, Shi Fui silently expressed 2 words. Against the sky. He looked at the sisters holding together and cleared his throat. Sangyan and Ran Yuan stopped to look at him. Su Shishi looked at them solemnly and said, Sangyan, Ran Yuan. I will report your situation to the headquarters. Of course, the headquarters may already know about it now. You should know that the security department's psychic team is recruiting psychic experts, right? The quota is not yet full. You too have the ability to sign up, but your achievement points are not enough. However, as internal personnel, we will apply for a spot for you. As long as you earn enough achievements within a year, you can go to Chaoyang City to participate in the assessment. Looking at their surprised faces, he smiled and said, so, as the Chief Security Officer of the Guangming City Level 2 Survival Station, I would like to invite both of you. May I ask if Sangyan and Ran Yuanyuan are willing to join the survival station, fight for the future of humanity, and lead by example to protect ordinary people? Sangyan looked up at Su Shirshi's hopeful eyes. She raised the corner of her mouth, glanced at Ran Yuanyuan, nodded at her, and answered loudly, Sangyan, it's so sweet. Ran Yuanyuan followed closely and said, I am willing too. I will not betray your trust. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Captain of the Hunting Team. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Captain of the Hunting Team. Su Shirshi nodded approvingly and said, okay. We're all good kids, let's go. Now we'll take you to the survival station to register your information. At this time, the forum for optical brain superpowers has gone crazy, and the ranking list is constantly updated in optical brain. Almost all superpowers in China now know that a highly talented superpower has been born in just 30 minutes. The normal base and survival station were quarreling fiercely, and the psychics stopped arguing. They all stared at the sudden emergence of the psychics, frantically searching for their information. The hottest post is shocked. Surprisingly, there are 2 consecutive S.level and above superpowers appearing. Both are young girls under the age of 20. The following comments have gone crazy. Qingfeng Duzue 1L. Where did the genius come from? Excuse me for being blunt, can one punch kill 100 C.level enemies / cover your mouth and smile 9 words 2L. I die of his mother laughter. You old 6 on the first floor are fighting again. I have seen you many times. Trapped and Trapped 3L. When I saw the title, I clicked on it with a snap, it was very fast. Let's put aside those who are not S, these 2 girls are also too good. Looking. Former book 4L. Ning Hui and I really like it / drooling lost, U5L. This is too young. I'm under 20 years old. I'm already 98 years old, and my abilities can only reach level B. Don't bother me, 6L. As we all know, our average lifespan is 150 years. And these 2 girls are only under 20 years old, what's the difference between them and the top 10 big shots on the list? Give them more time to grow up, and they can stand shoulder to shoulder with Gu Ziyu and the others. My favorite dish is chicken legs. 7L. What is the top 10 on the list? According to the latest data from Sangyan, it is currently ranked 10th. Shaoxing 8L. Are you sick, Wen Jinyang on the 4th floor? Don't force me to come to your house and beat you up. Sangyan and Ran Yuanyuan were unaware of the various discussions on the forum about them, so they got on the car and entered the survival station. Entering the station requires going through a security check, which is much more careful than before. After passing the security check, Su Shirshi took them to the information department. Passers-by greeted Su Shirshi one after another, but their eyes stared curiously at the 2 sisters. At this moment, cheers came from behind them, and Sangyan turned back at the sound. I saw a huge metal plate floating low in the air, neatly arranged with boxes of supplies. The quantity was astonishing. The people around the supplies showed a clear relaxation in their expressions, with tattered uniforms on their bodies, as if they had engaged in a fierce battle. The tall man walking in front of the metal plate had a cold and stern expression, and his wheat-colored face still had this mottled blood stain, which should have been splashed on. The man noticed a different gaze than usual and looked at Sangyan accurately and quickly. Subsequently, his pupils contracted, and his heart, which usually wouldn't beat more when encountering high-level zombies, uncontrollably shook wildly in his chest. The dazzling background around him faded away, leaving only the girl's pale gaze at his phoenix eyes. The person he had been waiting for came, Qiying thought absent-mindedly. When Su Shirshi saw them returning from hunting a team, his already smiling face now had a stronger smile. He looked up and down at Qi Yingshan and nodded unsatisfied when he saw that he had been injured in one place. Long time no see, Captain Yingshan's momentum has increased significantly. The team members behind happily said, "That's not it, just kill high-level zombies." If it weren't for the captain, we would have hiccuped long ago. Indeed, who would have thought that a high-level zombie would suddenly appear? It's rare to see one in 10 years. One of the team members looked curiously at Sangyan and the others and asked, "Officer Su, are these two girls?" As soon as he said this, everyone stopped talking and looked at the sisters. Sangyan's scalp was tingling and his toes were scratching the ground. Su Shishi laughed and said, "This is Sangyan, who is also a new companion. This is her sister, Ran Yuan Yuan." They both, TSK, they were piqued by Su Shishi's attitude and said, "What's going on? Officer Su, please tell me quickly." Qi Yingshan also stared closely at Sangyan, as if he could spot the flowers. "Sangyan. What's wrong with this man? Why keep staring at her?" Su Shishi snorted and shook his head, "You little ghosts, don't worry. Sangyan is a dual attribute ability of thunder and gold, with lightning attribute strength reaching SS+ and metal attribute strength reaching S+. Ran Yuan Yuan and fire attribute abilities have attribute strength reaching S+. After speaking, I hugged my arm and looked at them in shock, suddenly feeling happy. What? Dual attributes. Dual S. Ko Wensi, who was handsome and wearing glasses in the team, couldn't control his expression and let out a howl. Wei Yalan has always been a gentle girl in the team, and at this moment, her eyes are also dumbfounded as she murmurs to herself, "SS, hee, SS. Sangyan. What? They all seem abnormal." Ran Yuan Yuan suppressed her laughter. "Why are these people so funny? Ha ha ha, she can't hold back anymore." Sangyan glanced at Su Shishi, who was gloating at his misfortune, and helplessly said to them, "Hello everyone, I am Sangyan. Now I know how surprising dual attributes and dual S can be." At this moment, the man who had just been staring at her strode up to her. Reaching out his hand, his voice was deep and mellow, and his eyes were burning as he said, "Hello Sangyan, my name is Qi Yingshan, 25 years old, and I hold the position of captain of the hunting team. I have a fire attribute ability with a strength of SS+. My achievement point is 3458, I am 189 meters tall, physically and mentally healthy, and I have no mental illness. My terminal number is 105511. Team members. Boss, what are you doing? Boss. Su Shishi. This kid. Almost engraved the 4 words "I'm courting" on his face. Sangyan felt his hot gaze and choked. Unfortunately, at this moment, the system sends a broadcast. Congratulations to the master for completing the side mission. Task details. Join the first survival station in this area and gain the trust of the hunting team captain. Task completion reward. 50 points. The points have been credited Sangyan. You're working on the system. What? Oh. Just met and talked about trust. Please wake me up. She gritted her teeth and cursed in her heart, but she still maintained a strong smile at the corner of her mouth and a cold gaze. In front of everyone's eyes, she calmly and gently grasped his slender and powerful hand. Sangyan's fingers are slender, plump and fair. Qi Yingshan felt that her hand was so small that he could easily wrap it around it with just one hand. "Hello, Captain Qi." After Sangyan finished speaking, he let go of his hand and Ran Yuan Yuan beside him said with a smile on his face, "Hello, my name is Ran Yuan Yuan." Captain Qi's gaze is so terrifying, I wish I had eaten my sister. She must protect her sister well. The little girl thought that Qi Yingshan had malicious intentions towards Sangyan and kept harboring rumors in her heart. The poor little girl is unaware of the colorful world of adults and only wants to protect her sister. The members of the hunting team greeted each other with smiles. Su Shishi interrupted in time and said, all right, it's not too late to talk again later. We have something else to go to the information department. Upon hearing this, Qi Ying said in a deep voice, let's go together. I happen to have to report the data. Okay, let's go then. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. The King of Zombies, Born Again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. The King of Zombies, Born Again. The remaining team members controlled the metal plates and pulled the supplies to the material building to hand them over. The information department says it's a department, but in reality it's a building. There are 4 levels in total, each with different styles of calculators, robots, and busy staff. They are going to the 4th floor, swiping Su Shishi's ID card all the way smoothly to the minister's office. There is a 1-meter-long groove on the wall next to the door, inside which stands a small robot. It sensed someone coming and recognized Su Shishi's ID card and his pupils. A cute mechanical sound came from its metal belly. It turns out it's Mr. Su, please wait a moment. After speaking, there was no movement. They waited quietly for a few seconds before the door automatically opened. As you walk in, you'll see a huge display screen with various data floating up and down, making you dizzy. A robot in a suit walked towards them and slightly bowed, saying, hello everyone, I am Mr. Su's secretary. Mr. is inside, and I will take you over. Ran Yuanyuan walked beside Sangyan and whispered to her, sister, this place is so mysterious. Sangyan nodded lightly and whispered to her, I feel like I'm surrounded by robots. They turned around and stopped in front of a room full of bookshelves. The robot took them there and then left. The room had no door, and they saw a young man with a gold-framed monocle in his right eye sitting alone in front of the huge display screen, recording something. Su Shishi walked quickly into the room, and the sound of his footsteps landing on the wooden floor made the man lift his head. He stood up and looked at them with eyes as deep as the sea. He smiled apologetically and said, you're here. I'm sorry. I couldn't make it to the important stage just now and couldn't personally receive you. Please forgive me. Su Shishi sat on the sofa next to him waving his hand, not polite to him. Old Su, don't say there's anything about these, I'll come to you if I have something to do. He raised his hand and gestured for the 2 of them to come over, looking up at Su Qing who had already walked to the sofa next to him. You must have read their data, haven't you? It was sent to you by Lao Ji before. Su Qing nodded and said gently to them, I have seen it. It is our honor that both of you are willing to join and become the 2 major contributors to the survival station. The sister said modestly, you flatter me. He continued, after registering your information later, you can receive an identity card and freely move around the station. The identity card is universal on survival stations in China. They nodded. Su Shishi lazily leaned on the sofa and said, all right, Lao Su, take them to register quickly and allocate a place for them to live. Qi Yingshen, who had been silent for a long time, suddenly said, there is a vacant residence in Area A, Building 6 was recently moved out. Su Shishi gave him a meaningful glance and said, you kid, I don't know what's on N's mind. It's strange to say that Qi Yingshen applied to be transferred from headquarters to their place 5 years ago, saying it was to wait for someone. Although the superiors couldn't figure it out, they still readily approved it. I haven't seen such a big emotional change in this kid in the past 5 years, but he did see it today. He glanced at Sangyan again, who was unaware, and shook his head for Qi Ying in secret. This girl is very independent and may not be easy to follow, Su Shishi thought, somewhat gloating. Su Qing thought about it for a while. It seemed that the house was quite good. He asked the sisters for their advice. 6 of them are 2-story villas with swimming pools. For strong people at your level, we will allocate the best resources to you. As he walked towards the display screen with Sangyan and Ran Yuanyuan, he continued, of course, you have to earn enough achievement points within a limited time. You also have to receive one task per week, with no limit on the difficulty of the task. You must receive one intermediate task per month, and if you have enough ability, you can also receive higher level tasks on your own. The reward for each level of task is different, specifically how to claim it and where to complete the task. After registering the identity card, the terminal will automatically send you an operation manual and the rules and regulations of the survival station. After speaking, he reached out to them and said, "Alright, now open your terminal identity card and send it to the display screen." They followed their words. The work program hanging on the screen quickly inputted their information into the survival station, and 2 identity cards were spit out from the card slot on the desktop. Name: Sangyan, gender: female, age: 19 years old, power level: top level powerhouse ability attributes: Thunder, gold identity. Currently, I have not joined any team or organization. In the upper right corner of the ID card, there is also a photo of themselves. On the back of the card is a 5-pointed star pattern, with a burning flame-shaped badge in the middle of the pattern. Sangyan pointed to this badge and looked at Su Qing in confusion. Is this the badge of the survival station? Yes, try not to lose this ID card as its information is bound to the terminal and will be updated at any time. If it is really lost, there is no need to worry. You can apply for a report of the loss on the terminal and come to the information department to make up for it. A replacement card with 500 credit points will suffice. Sangyan listened to his gentle voice, although she was not sure what the merit points of a task were. But there are a lot of 500 achievement points to listen to. Who dares to destroy this card? Qi Yingshan waited quietly for them to complete their registration, and when he saw that they were all done, he stood up. Sangyan couldn't help but meow at his strong chest muscles, which looked easy to touch. She calmly averted her gaze. Qi Yingshan said heavily to Su Qing, "We encountered a wave of zombies while searching for supplies in the suburbs. It doesn't matter. After killing them all, we met a high-level zombie. Its energy is not right. It's even smarter than ordinary high-level zombies. After narrowly defeating it, I fell this from it." He was digging in his backpack behind him, pulling out a magnificent crown. Crown of Sincerity. Green equipment. Wearing it, whether you are telling the truth or lies, the target object will believe it deeply. Use it 10 times, and destroy it immediately if it exceeds the limit. Sangyan looked at the pop-up system panel and raised an eyebrow. This thing is much more useful than her small broken sword. Su Qing's eyelids twitched. He knew what it meant. The Zombie King has been born again. Su Shishi looked stern as he lifted the terminal between his wrists and showed them the announcement displayed on it. The headquarters has issued a notice that there has been a sudden wave of zombies in over 100 regions, and the number of high-level zombies has significantly increased. According to professional inspectors' data calculations, there are no less than 10 zombie kings. Su Qing took off the glasses hanging from his nose bridge, and it was only then that Sangyan saw that his right eye was actually fake. He rubbed his brow and said, "And based on what Captain Qi just brought out, the item dropped by the zombie this time is equipment. It's unclear how to use it at the moment. I'll send the crown to the data detection center later to check the ingredients inside." Qi Ying nodded deeply. Sangyan furrowed her brows lightly. She always felt that dropping different equipment and skills from the zombie was a very discordant thing, which did not conform to the principle. But strangely enough, everyone thinks it's normal. Is it really her overthinking? In the high-tech apocalypse, no matter what happens, it's normal. That's weird. This looks like a game no matter what, okay. But what puzzled her was, why did the system hide from her the fact that the whole world was actually a game? Otherwise, why did I tell her before to treat this place as a game, to treat games as games? There must be some undisclosed secrets in the system. If this is really a game, where is the real reality? Are the people here real people? And more importantly, Sangyan actually doesn't remember what happened to her in another world. It's like she has never lived in that world before. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Why did you keep staring at me before? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Why did you keep staring at me before? Sangyan shook his head in his heart. No matter what, troops for the enemy, earth for floods. After coming out of the information department, Qi Yingshan took them to the material trading building to collect their own supplies. Su Shishi stayed at the information department and dealt with the matter of the zombie king with Su Qing. Sangyan looked up at the skyscraper in front of him. The whole building seemed to be rotating, and it seemed that each floor was rotating 360 degrees at different speeds. This design is really amazing. She touched her chin. I couldn't help but wonder, can the rooms inside also rotate? After walking in, well, it turns out it's not rotating. There are many people inside, mostly supernatural beings wearing black uniforms. There are 2 entrances on the first floor, which are written as follows. The Superpower Trading Channel and the Crowd Trading Channel. There is a huge blue transparent panel suspended between the 2 entrances, which shows how many achievement points are needed to exchange for different items. Also, there are various new supplies available today, including sofas, mattresses, and a doll machine. Sangyan clearly saw that the remaining number of pink doll machines was decreasing. Sangyan. Where did the doll machine come from? Hey. They swiped their cards and walked into the passage. The passage was not very large, but they only realized there was a hidden cave inside after leaving the passage. Ran Yuan couldn't help but, wow. This first layer is directly connected to the top layer, and there are many warehouses stacked one after another on the top layer. I don't know how it was done, but it's better not to explore too much reality in the gaming world. Moreover, there are floating ladders next to each warehouse for them to get up. Some rebellious supernatural beings take off out of thin air and stand in front of the warehouse to exchange supplies. Sangyan calmly thought that this should be a skill that can fly into the sky. What's even more outrageous is driving all the floating cars in. The whole scene is both sci-fi and full of magic. But won't they be punished like this? As soon as Sangyan thought about it, Qi Yingshan beside her frowned tightly and shouted sternly, if you don't follow the rules, each person will lose 20 points of merit. His stern voice instantly echoed throughout the entire space, and those who were flying and driving hurriedly landed on the ground when they heard his voice. A golden curly-haired person first landed and howled, it's the captain. Why is the captain coming today? Qi Ying looked at him with a cold expression and said, why am I here today? Do you usually exchange goods like this? You can't even see the rules and regulations at the door, can you? There is a gravity system here that can't use special abilities, let alone driving a floating vehicle. If you don't pay attention, it can malfunction and fall from high altitude. Since you are so lazy and unwilling to queue up, then go to the training ground for an additional 4 hours tonight. If you do it again, it won't be a 20-point achievement. The psychics nodded like quails and said, okay boss. Got it, Captain. Sorry Captain, we won't do it again next time. Qi Ying nodded with a deep expression on her face, clasping her arms and saying, go and collect the punishment. I will call 17 to come and install the surveillance. After speaking, I took Sangyan Yuan and walked around them to the innermost warehouse on the first floor. A psychic with a lowered head, Yu Guang, instinctively glanced at Sangyan and the others, and was suddenly surprised. These two. Aren't they the 2 super geniuses on the forum? Why is it here? He was a bit uncertain, it was too dreamy, like the unreal feeling of a super big shot like Gu Ziyu suddenly appearing in front of him. But Sangyan's face is really easy to recognize, he can't possibly admit it wrong. Oh my god. The innermost warehouse is where uniforms are stored. Just enter your height, weight, and desired size on the LCD panel in front of the warehouse. A fitted uniform can be transported out of the warehouse. Qi Yingshan took them up the floating ladder to collect supplies one by one, and the welfare benefits were very good. The latest supernatural beings who entered the survival station can receive 10 intermediate nutrient solutions and healing agents, as well as a bunch of fancy ingredients. Ran Yuanyuan looked at the pile of ingredients with worry, and Sangyan asked in confusion, Yuanyuan, what's wrong? Qi Yingshan also turned his head slightly to look at her. It's just how to deal with so many ingredients. We don't know how to cook. I've been accustomed to drinking nutritional supplements since I was young and haven't had many opportunities to eat food. Upon hearing her words, Sangyan shifted his gaze to the pile of ingredients. Sangyan. Headache, she really can't cook. It's not that I don't know at all, but no matter how hard I try, this dish just doesn't taste good. She couldn't help but think. Does she have any strange magic? Then the sisters heard Qi Yingshan's firm voice. I will. Sangyan ran Yuanyuan. Shimo their eyes lit up as they looked at him, and even Ran Yuanyuan temporarily let go of her guard against him. She was overjoyed and asked, really? Qi Ying lowered her eyes and stared back at Sangyan without blinking. His tone became even more firm. Well, I've always been cooking for myself, and I don't drink nutritional supplements until necessary. If I don't mind, I'll make 2 extra servings every time I cook. Ran Yuanyuan cheered inwardly. Good. Don't worry about how to deal with the food. Sangyan chuckled and shook her head. How can I be so embarrassed? Let's just give you 1/3 of the treatment we receive every month. How about that? Someone could help with the food, but they couldn't let anyone cook for nothing. Qi Ying nodded deeply and said, sure. He paused, the materials will be filled out in the lobby later with the delivery address, and there will be robots to help transport them. Now, I will take you to Building 6 in Area A. Okay, thank you. No trouble, it happened to be on the way. Ran Yuanyuan. What happened to be on the way? Her vigilance, which she had just put away, suddenly stiffened again. Sangyan chuckled and patted the little girl's head to signal her composure. She looked up at the tall figure of the man, her eyebrows curved, and said, okay, then please ask Captain Qi to lead the way. Area A is a place where members with strong strength or outstanding achievements live, with a total of 20 buildings located in the most scenic area of the entire city. Swipe your card to enter the community and walk all the way to the exquisitely decorated villa, which is fully furnished and doesn't require any additional items. And it's very clean, with robots cleaning it every day. Qi Yingshan escorted them to the door and left. Before leaving, he hesitated for a moment and asked awkwardly, Sangyan, can I add your terminal number? Sangyan's expression remained unchanged, with a faint smile on the corner of his mouth. It's okay, he said. She reached out her hand and lightly touched the terminal between her wrists. The terminal rang out, Didi, a contact has been successfully added. She waved her hand and lightly curled her lips, okay. Qi Yingshan gently touched the terminal she had touched, and her gaze involuntarily fell on the corner of her raised mouth. She restrained her emotions and nodded calmly, thank you, I'm going back now. If you have anything to do, you can come to me. After finishing speaking, he nodded at them and turned to walk towards the next house. The pool's shadow is deep. His back stiffened, and he heard her cold voice ringing not far behind him. Why did you keep looking at me before? Qi Ying stood still for a moment, as if pondering for a long time. Sang waited for a while, thinking he didn't want to say anything. Of course, this is his privacy, it's okay if he doesn't say it. Just as she thought he wouldn't speak, she heard Qi Yingshan's slightly hoarse voice. In my memory, I have always had a partner, but during the mission, she was attacked by high-level zombies and sacrificed herself. I always thought this was real, but when I was at headquarters, my teammates told me that there had never been such a person before. I still firmly believed that I had a partner until 5 years ago when I had a dream. I dreamed that my partner wasn't dead, she just went to live in another world, but would wake up in a distant area in 5 years. He turned around and looked at her with complex eyes. My premonition tells me that I will eventually meet the real her here. Today, I met you, and I have an answer in my heart that crazily tells me it's you. The person I'm waiting for is you, Sangyan. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Ability Strength Ranking. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Ability Strength Ranking. Sangyan didn't expect such a reason. She instinctively recalled that she clearly couldn't remember things from another world. But to her surprise, Sangyan could still remember that she had a car accident when she was 14 years old, and was rescued and sent to the hospital by a boy who grew up together in an orphanage. At that time, she was covered in blood and confused, but she could clearly see the boy who hadn't seen her for a long time, but his eyebrows and eyes hadn't changed much. He trembled and gently picked her up. She vaguely heard him say, "Don't be afraid. Sang, don't be afraid." When she came out of the emergency room, he was nowhere to be seen. She asked the nurse, but was told that he had paid all the fees and left. Sangyan raised her eyes, and Qi-Yingshan's eyebrows and eyes gradually overlapped with those of the boy in her memory. She opened her mouth, but didn't know what to say. She knew that the reality of this world was a game, but she couldn't treat the people inside as any game characters. She is located at a distance that is both close to the world and very far away, unable to blend in or return to her original place. Sangyan cannot and will never respond to his emotions. I can only say pale, thank you. It seems that I can only compensate him elsewhere. Although she was not sure if the other world was real, it was always something that happened. Qi-Ying shook his head deeply, his gaze sweeping towards Ran Yuanyuan, whose face was full of question marks, and then towards Sangyan, who was lightly pursing his lips. He said in a muffled voice, "Go rest, you can take the task on the terminal tomorrow. I'll leave first, goodbye to Sangyan." Sangyan entered the room with a question-marked Ran Yuanyuan. As soon as the door closed, the doorbell rang. She thought it was Qi-Yingshan or something else. Opening the door, I saw a robot wearing work clothes. His face lit up with a data-driven smile on the display screen, and his enthusiastic mechanical speaker said, "Hello Miss Sang. I am a special aircraft transporter from the Material Trading Building, with job number 1334. The materials you selected to transport in the lobby have already been delivered to you. Please remember to open the terminal and confirm receipt within 2 hours." Sangyan couldn't help but exclaim that the service speed was really good. She nodded and said, "Okay, thank you very much. Can you help me move the supplies to the living room?" "Of course, Miss Beauty, I'm happy to help." The robot whizzed a large package into the living room. Before leaving, he didn't forget to say, "Remember to give 1334 5-star reviews." Sangyan nodded with a smile and said, "Okay, I will definitely do it. Walk slowly, Mr. Robot." She watched the robot leave, closed the door, opened the terminal, and patted the package. When confirming receipt, upload pictures and give a 5-star review. After the sisters sorted out the materials, Sangyan slumped on the sofa and drank water with a cup in his arms. Ran Yuanyuan sat next to her, pinching her fingers for a long time before speaking up. "Sister," was what Captain Cheat said before. "And confession." Sangyan. Pup cough cough cough. The little girl panicked and reached out to pat her back. She heard Sangyan cough and say, "That's not it, cough cough cough. That's not confession." Sangyan's fair cheeks were covered in thin red, and she said with a righteous tone, "Confessing is not like that. At most, this can be considered an adult's confession." Ran Yuanyuan nodded vaguely, and when she saw Sangyan slowly approaching, she stood up and said, "Then I'll go sleep, sister." Sangyan half-dead bowed his hand and said, "Go, go." She watched the little girl bouncing up the stairs and sighed with a heavy heart. She opened the terminal and connected to the optical brain. But I saw that there were 99 plus application messages displayed in the contact person of the optical brain. Sangyan. She opened her eyes inexplicably, with a dazzling array of application information instantly flooding her eyes, to the extent that even a second glance would lead to contamination. Sangyan clicked on one of them, and his additional information was: Boss. Bring a strap. Clever, Sangyan was even more puzzled. She withdrew and clicked on another question. Can she occupy a friend position of the genius girl? Shy, what? What are they all? This is. She calmly crossed it off and prepared to search for her information on the homepage, but was caught by a hot topic. Shocked. Surprisingly, 2S. Level and above supernatural powers have appeared consecutively. They are both young girls under the age of 20. She had a premonition that this was definitely referring to her and Ran Yuanyuan's fate. Without hesitation, I opened the topic and saw the crazy comments below, my mouth twitching slightly. This. Everyone. Yes. Some. What? Oh. East. West. She gritted her teeth and saw the top-rated comment. You don't understand me 99L. I am the dog of sisters. Don't compete with me. Twisted, dark, crawling, biting other dogs, beating other dogs, his response below seems to have been frightened by him. Mo Rant's reply. Strictly investigate the mental state of this psychic. Bai Chichi replied. Okay, you're a dog. You're a dog, cover your mouth and smile, if you're not satisfied with me, just hit me and reply. Is the mental state of the people on your survival station so interesting? Sangyan. She left the topic with a headache and clicked on the privacy settings of the computer to refuse anyone to add friends. I switched to the superpower mode again, and after careful success, the entire page became much cleaner. The most prominent feature on the homepage is the recruitment information of the Security Department's Special Ability Team, which seems to be in a top-notch state. Her gaze shifted downwards and she saw a section called Power Strength Ranking. Sangyan entered curiously, and the previous interviewer's terminal showed that she was 10th, while Ran Yuanyuan was 21st. The leaderboard interface is simple and requires individual clicking on their avatars to display detailed data. The top-ranked individual is Gu Ziyu, male, 26 years old, with dual attributes of water and thunder abilities. The strength of the abilities includes water attribute SSS+ and thunder attribute SSS+. Sangyan okay, what a twisted panel. She was blinded by 2 3S flashes and calmly looked towards the second place. Lian Qingfeng, male, 28 years old, has dual attributes of fire and gold, with strength of fire attribute SSS+ and metal attribute SSS+. Sangyan. She looked down again. Zhao Yiran, female, 25 years old, has dual attributes of water and soil, with a strength of water attribute SSS+ and soil attribute SSS. Sangyan was blinded by a bunch of S flashes, and she slowly slid down, only to see a familiar person in 8th place. Qi Yingshen, male, 25 years old, fire attribute ability, power strength SSS+. She was still very happy to see a familiar person on the leaderboard. She rode further down and saw herself. Looking back at the pile of SSS+ ahead, I let out a deep sigh. At this moment, the system, which had not moved for a long time, suddenly spoke up. Hello Master, we have detected your desire to become stronger. The system prompts you to obtain their crystals by killing zombies, which can absorb the energy inside and help you upgrade your ability strength. Sangyan propped her cheeks and asked her own question, how do you absorb it? Does it get into your stomach? You can hold the crystal in your hand, and the energy detected by the energy source will be automatically absorbed. She nodded, pondering, I see. Then wouldn't it be possible to directly kill and kill, constantly killing until it was upgraded? The soul of Sangyan's liver emperor is burning fiercely. Ding officially entering the main storyline, end of this chapter. Chapter 9. Completing the main task, 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Completing the main task, 1. Early in the morning, Sangyan was taken aback when he saw the unfamiliar ceiling, and then realized that it was a new residence. She stayed in bed for a while, opened the terminal and automatically connected to the optical brain. She glanced at it and saw a plethora of notifications about terminal optical brain upgrades. Sangyan. She casually clicked on a notice titled, "The Super Terminal System that data centers have been devoted to researching for 3 years has officially updated," which roughly reads: "The terminal and optical brain no longer need to be used separately, and we have developed different functional modules as follows. 1. In response to the large-scale upgrade of the zombie population, we will integrate the optical brain and terminals, collectively known as the system, and utilize the dropped space performance equipment to develop space on the system. Each superpower can align the terminal with the item that needs to be stored, and then transfer it to the system space. But the space size is limited, and it can only carry a maximum weight of 1 ton and an area of 1,000 square meters. 2. Added a point system and a shopping mall. Unlike achievement points, points can only be used on the system, and psychics can use points to purchase items in the mall. You need to choose the type of item you want to purchase. You can transfer items from the system space to the mall for sale, and the system will automatically identify the selling price based on the points you receive. 3. Killing a low-level zombie earns 0.5 points, a mid-level zombie earns 4 points, and a high-level zombie earns 10 points. If your strength is very strong, you can choose to kill the zombie king, with 100 points per zombie king. 4. We divide the skills and equipment dropped by zombies into 5 different levels, in descending order. White, green, yellow, purple, red. The system will automatically recognize the quality of the dropped items you receive and settle them as points. Sangyan's pupils trembled and his eyes turned black, so he quickly closed the page. Knowing the truth, she knew that in the gaming world, authenticity and rationality should not be taken into account. She still asked the system, the terminals in this world have been upgraded with the optical brain, also known as the system. Compared to another system, which one is more powerful? The system seems to be too laggy, and the voice is intermittent. Lord. People, the things in my mall are cheaper a lot than the system mall in the world. And the space is larger. It stopped for a while before continuing to say, now we're starting to merge. Fusion successful. The sound was very smooth, and Sangyan was puzzled. The two systems were fighting, right? And her system also won. Sangyan. Is it truly a system that came from the collapse of the highest level world line? The system said, the integration with the host's functional system has been successful. Now that this system is connected to the data center, the host does not need to worry about future upgrade issues. She nodded, got up to wash up, took on an intermediate task, and prepared to launch a killing spree. Ran Yuan also took over, but their destinations were not the same, so they had to choose to act separately. Sangyan rode alone in a floating car, which could be set up for autonomous driving. She comfortably opened the map and chose an area far from Guangming City. There were 2 waves of zombies displayed above, and she randomly selected one and lay in the driver's seat waiting for the destination to arrive. Her main quest still needs more than 60 low-level zombies to be fully completed, with 1 more day left. After approaching the destination, she got off the car. Not far away is a group of zombies indiscriminately searching for humans, crowded into a pile of lush greenery. They smelled the extremely fragrant scent of human blood and drooled wildly, turning their heads to look at Sangyan walking slowly. Their throats made wild animal-like growls, and they rushed towards her like crazy. Sangyan is even more excited than them, controlling the surrounding metal objects with his left hand. Fingers twitched slightly, and the metal suspended on the zombie's head slammed at them. Sangyan chuckled at the roaring zombies, saying, "It's so noisy. Let's show you some fun. The right hand drives the thunder attribute, and the sizzling sound of electric current emanates from the palm of the hand, converging into a palm-sized ball. She raised the corner of her mouth and deftly threw a round ball into the struggling pile of zombies. With a loud bang, the pile exploded and the body flew horizontally, with a piece of broken meat falling at Sangyan's feet. She frowned. It seemed that the distance would be even further next time. Congratulations on completing the main task. 1. Task details. Successfully activate abilities and kill 100 low-level zombies within a week. Task completion reward. 100 points. Each low-level zombie killed earns 1 point. Calculating points successfully. Side quests. 50 points, main quests. 100 points, kills 98 low-level zombies, 2 intermediate zombies, current points. 264 Please continue to work hard. Host Sangyan raised his eyebrows. Isn't a mid-level zombie worth 4 points? Why is she double here? System. Master, the points given in my task system are twice as usual, and the potions sold in the mall are also twice as cheap. Sangyan. Wow, you're a system hack. After learning about it, she looked at the crystal that had fallen to the ground, but why didn't she have a skill book or equipment? Over 70 zombies, not a single one fell, right? Sangyan supported his forehead and picked up the crystal stones one by one, obediently. When she was about to pick it up, her movements paused and she said, "Is there a high-end purple crystal in her soul?" She simply asked the system. System, is there any special use for that crystal in my soul? Master, that crystal is an important source of support for your life. Since that's the case, then let's not care about it. After picking up the crystals, she got in the car and headed to the next zombie wave, where there were quite a few zombies. And when we abandoned those 4 ordinary people, the base named Tonghui was also there. Recalling the tears and numb gaze on their faces, she sighed. Retrieve an intermediate crystal from the space and as soon as it appears in your hand, the panel pops out. Intermediate zombie green crystal stone. After absorption, it can increase the power strength by 200 points. As you are a dual attribute power, you can choose the power that needs to be strengthened. Well, then add metallic abilities. Sangyan lowered her eyes and slowly absorbed the energy from the crystal, feeling a slight warmth spreading throughout her body. This feeling is like the comfort of soaking in a hot spring while feeling tired. A faint smile appeared at the corner of her mouth, and she liked this feeling. After continuously absorbing about 20 crystals, Sangyan pulled out the panel and added something similar to an experience bar to her metallic ability strength. The intensity upgrade requires 10,000 points, and she only has 1,200 points now. At this moment, she felt a jolt from the car body, and Sangyan lifted his head from the panel to park, looking around cautiously. There is an endless dense forest ahead, and to fully reach it, one needs to pass through this entire forest. And in this dense forest, she felt a huge magnetic field, and the floating car couldn't take off. Moreover, perhaps due to her metallic ability, she is very sensitive to metals. At this moment, she felt countless metallic substances floating in the air around her, with very complex compositions. She frowned slightly and decided to get off the car. Take out the small broken sword from the space and cautiously walk into the dense forest. Trigger side quests. Kill 100 intermediate zombies and 10 advanced zombies. Task reward. 500 points. Killing 1 intermediate zombie earns 8 points, and killing 1 advanced zombie earns 200 points. Sangyan, thank you, system. Now she knows what exactly is in this forest. She opened the map and as expected, the specific location of the zombies could not be displayed. She supported her chin and pondered, thinking that the dense forest was so wide that most of the zombies were scattered and moving. And there are still 10 high-level zombies lurking in this dense forest, with unknown dangers. She had previously read the mission manual of the survival station and found that advanced zombies would not gather, but were scattered throughout the dense forest. Sangyan looked around at the dense fog and dense tree trunks spreading around. The closer she gets, the more she feels the abnormally high metal concentration. If she were an ordinary person, she might have died as soon as she got close to the forest. It seems that there has been very serious environmental pollution here before. It can only be said that she is fortunate. Whether she is a superpower or a metal superpower, she feels like a fish in water here. Sangyan tried to manipulate the metallicity in the thick fog, gradually condensing it into a palm-sized metal ball. Sangyan's eyes lit up. In that case, the trees, thick fog, and even the air that could be seen everywhere could be used by her. She no longer hesitated, holding a small broken sword and thoroughly delving into the forest. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Advanced Zombies. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Advanced Zombies. Sangyan stepped on the muddy ground, and the soles of his shoes made a squeaking sound in contact with the moist soil in the lonely forest. Click and wipe. She thought she didn't care if she stepped on a branch, but upon closer reflection, the sensation didn't seem quite right. Counting the branches wasn't that thick. She turned around and looked at the ground, where a bone that had been broken in two by her trampling was sadly shattered. Sangyan. She silently averted her gaze and murmured, "Sin, sin." She used a small broken sword to carve out a small pit and buried the broken bone in it. After finishing, clap your hands and stand up, ready to continue the journey. Suddenly, her body stiffened. A weak gaze seemed to be closely spying on her from an invisible place, and Sangyan was tense all over. His gaze slowly and cautiously looked around. Surrounded by thick fog, she dared not act recklessly. Her attention was highly focused, and she clearly felt the presence of her gaze growing stronger, as the other person was moving rapidly. She closed her eyes and felt carefully. When she felt it clearly, the goosebumps suddenly exploded, and that thing was right behind her. Sangyan's eyes were cold, and he held a sword in his hand, quickly injecting thunder attributes and fiercely slashing backwards. The current exploded on the object behind her, accompanied by mist. She swung a sword and quickly jumped out of place, staring coldly at the thing that still refused to appear. She didn't show up, right? She controlled the metal in the water vapor, forming sharp steel needles and attaching thunder, piercing fiercely at the opponent. That thing reacted extremely quickly and dodged Sangyan's attack lightly, but it was also exposed in her sight as a result. Sangyan's pupils tightened, and the other person had two huge deformed heads growing, drooling. Her blue and gray eyes were staring at her drowsily. Like a beast that has been hungry for a long time, its thirst and madness for food are reflected in its eyes when it encounters prey. After staying in the forest for a long time, Sangyan could clearly feel the thick heavy metal on its body. Its decaying belly bulged high like a human pregnant woman, yet it was not stretched open. She held her sword tightly with a solemn face, hiding her left hand behind her. The other party reacted too quickly and could only wait for it to launch an attack on its own. Not long after, it couldn't resist the temptation of its prey and launched an attack. When the other party jumps up, the condensed chains fall from the sky and firmly bind it. At that moment when it was stuck in the air, another chain tightly wrapped around its feet and pulled it down from the ground, causing the opponent to fall from a high place and struggle on the ground. Sangyan quickly threw several lightning balls at it, and the opponent was electrocuted and screamed. Advanced Zombie. Health. 3105/5000 Attack. 2000 Attack Method. 1. Mount Tai is overwhelming. Use your own weight to gravity attack the target. Damage. 1502. Spray venom at the mouth. When attacked, the venom sac hidden in the mouth will automatically secrete highly toxic substances and shoot at the target. Damage. 1003. The zombie has great power and can tear open attacking targets with bare hands. 4. The zombie has an extremely fast speed of up to 50 meters per second. Weakness. Head crystal. Unknown at the moment of seeing the message on the panel, Sangyan jumped out of place to avoid the toxic spray, and then pulled out a chain from underground to bind the entire body of the zombie. Looking at the struggling and roaring zombies, she thought for a moment. Simply manipulate the trees around it to press tightly against it, and the sound of the trunk falling echoed through the area, startling some creatures to flee. It's really exhausting. Fortunately, she reacted quickly, otherwise she would have been torn to pieces. Sangyan had a gloomy little face and threw dozens of electric currents onto the zombie. Roar. It struggled in pain, but the chains and water droplets on its body were crazily conducting electricity under the action of the current. Quickly, thick smoke rose up and a long rotten, burnt meat smell came in. Sangyan. Hasty. I didn't expect the smell of high-end zombies to be so. Making her uncomfortable. Achoo. Sangyan, who was sneezing from the smell, shook her head. She pulled out the panel and found that the zombie's blood bar still had 1389. With just a few more strokes, it should be almost enough. Close the panel and look at the howling zombie with a slight smile, Azu. Sangyan. Taking a sniff, she controlled the trees that were pressing against the zombie, causing it to feel lighter and struggle harder. As we approach success. Bang. The huge tree was pressed down hard again. Over and over again, the zombie's body was smashed and its flesh flew wildly. Soon, it stopped moving. Sangyan wondered, isn't it a high-level zombie? Besides being slightly harder to play than intermediate, isn't there much difficulty? However, she did not let her guard down because of this, fearing that it might have some potential consequences. After waiting in place for half an hour, seeing that it still didn't move, Sangyan slightly relaxed his guard. Place the sword horizontally in front of you and walk step by step. As she walked towards the zombie, Sangyan suddenly stopped in his tracks. Intuition is crazily telling her that there is danger. She quickly stepped back to release the current around her. A cluster of broken hair slowly fell to the ground, and Sangyan's back was covered in cold sweat. If it's a little slower, her head might fall to the ground. End of this chapter.